Good evening. Hope everybody is doing well. I want to have a little chat, shall we? So, Blue just started scuffing, so you see this hat I've got on, right? It's one of many hats that I've had and worn throughout my life. And I was one of those that, I just, when I would start a new type of job, a new type of whatever it was, it didn't matter what it was. I did, of course, the fast food thing like everybody does, right, or most everybody. But then, even before I was out of high school, I started doing industrial work, and I actually, I was a machine operator, and I was a senior in high school, and I was a machine operator, and so I had to learn a lot about how life worked at a kind of a young age with that. Just a real brief aside to that. I worked 40 plus hours a week, plus went to school, high school, full time. And when I say 40 plus, I mean that I worked most Saturdays. So I put in a lot of time along with, going to school at the same time. It is what it is. I loved it. I thought it was great. Because, you know what? Who else in high school was bringing home that kind of a paycheck, So, anyway, the brief aside is that was an interesting job. I couldn't leave my machine for my entire 8-hour shift. I had to stay with the machine. If I had to use the restroom, I had to have one of the neighboring operators kind of keep an eye on my machine while I, as quickly as I could, ran to the bathroom and got back. Those were the rules. You couldn't sit down. And you didn't get a lunch. No lunch, no breaks, no nothing. And in fact, I signed a piece of paper when I started the job, more or less waiving, apparently it's not as good as the paper it's written on, but it was supposedly waiving my rights to, the lunch breaks and, but nonetheless, and the reason why, there was a reason why. It wasn't just because he was just a dictator boss. Those machines, you can't just fire them up and shut them down. It's not like that. It's literally printing foil at, what did I run my machine? I think it was like 120 feet per minute, I think is what it standard ran at, 120 feet per minute, and it ran aluminum foil. It ran it through one layer. It was, the machine had, I'm saying 2 layers, right? It's double deck. And they were heating, they had heating elements in the beds, okay? And so the foil came up off the roll, went through a print knurl and pinch roller, went through the bottom bed, right, which was heated. That ideally would dry it. And then it would go through the backside of the machine through another pinch roller and knurl that actually had an adhesive, okay? And so then that would come up through the top bed to where it would dry. And then there was another pinch roller, a heated pinch roller, right on the outside of the machine, right up near the front of it. And what that would do is there was a roll of poly. It was just plastic, okay? And it would glue that poly to that foil. Now, if you've ever gone into, oh hell, even Walmart, but if you've gone into a floral place or something like that and you looked at the pots and you've seen in the pot, you've seen this, one side of it's foil, the other side of it is like a plastic. Usually the plastic side is hunter green. And anyway, that's the material I was talking about. And I can guarantee you that's the material I was talking about because, oh boy, that makes it, that owns the company, has an international patent on that material. So, yeah, if you see those, I mean, it could have changed since then, but back when I worked there, if you saw that stuff somewhere, that is where it came from. Same company made, what was it? I forget. 80 or 90% of the world's Easter grass. Used to. I don't know that they do anymore. But yeah, interesting stuff. Highland Supply Corporation. But anyway, I did that. I was still in high school. And so I started out with kind of industrial work and continued with that. And I've done all kinds of industrial type shop jobs. I've worked production line, welder for heavy equipment rack. Well, they weren't equipment racks, but they were big racks that went on the back of semi-trailers, and they held car parts for like General Motors and Ford and all that. I used to weld the racks that those car parts are put on when they're transported. So I've done that. I worked as a hydraulics mechanic, in which I did the whole gambit of things, not only hydraulics and pneumatics, but I also had to do welding, machining, all that good stuff related to that work. So I've worked at a truck wash. That's not a highly technical job, but is hard work, I'll tell you that. I've done all kinds of stuff, and I worked at an electronics manufacturing plant. I did that. What job would that have been? I left Highland Supply. I don't know that I went there from Highland Supply, or if I probably bounced a little bit. But shortly after high school, I started working at an electronics manufacturer. And I knew enough about electronics, because it was one of my hobbies, one of my passions, that I didn't get put on a production line. I got put right in the test and repair lab because I knew a thing or two. And so I worked there for a while. In fact, the only reason I left that job is basically because I took off with a girl, and we went to go live our life in another state, and it didn't work out, but whatever. Hindsight, I wished I wouldn't have quit that job. But anyway, that's the way it goes. So I've done quite a few things, but one of my passions has always been, as I just stated, electronics. And so that's why I speak up so loudly on things that I know about, the things that I really truly know about. I started prepping a long time ago, and I had a fair amount of preps together. Aside from quote-unquote, designated preps, I had a lot of stuff. A lot of crap. But I had a lot of tools. I had a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. And I had a pretty good income coming in at the time. And I just started getting heavily into prepping, and I was buying stuff left and right. And my life had a few big shakeups in it. And in fact, I posted a video earlier from back when I was doing the ultralight flying. I posted a video from another channel I have. I went ahead and just copied it over here. But anywho, right around that time period, my life took a downward spiral. And I can't say I'm not at all to blame for it, but I'm not completely to blame for it either. I will share the responsibility for the train wreck that my life had become. And I literally started out with nothing. I lost everything I had. Everything. I had a backpack, and when I say backpack, I mean a medium-sized Alice pack that had clothes and whatnot in it. I had a duffel bag that had clothes and paperwork and anything else I could stuff in it. And I had my computer tower that Jen is now using. That's it. An entire life was reduced down to that. And so it wasn't too long after that Jen and I had gotten together, and we got in a place together, and ever since then I've been doing everything I can to rebuild that life back. And I learned a lot through all of this. I learned a lot of mistakes I made, especially in my prior prepping. And I learned that it's really important that you really take a good look and do your due diligence in researching the things that you get. I know many people, probably most everyone, have bought things that either wasn't as good as they expected it to be, or they bought things that they later regretted. And I can honestly say, this time around, as far as prepping, there's not a whole lot that I can say I regret getting. Now, there are things that, in hindsight, knowing the direction that we went now, that money would have been better spent a different way. But that could have never been known at the time. At the time, with the situation at the time, I still think I made solid choices. There's a lot that I have learned, like I say, along this journey, not just with prepping, but throughout my entire life. One thing I've learned is you have to be really careful with the flashy latest thing. Really careful. I used to be a phone junkie for a while. Probably for about 4 or 5 phones worth, if let me explain. So I got into phones, mobile phones, and into smartphones, and I mean, because they're kind of cool, and so I got kind of heavily into them, and got to a point to where I had to have the latest greatest. And I remember the first of that latest greatest that I had ever bought, and it happened to be, and I'll still say this, the biggest piece of junk phone that I ever had. And that was the BlackBerry Storm. And it just had released. And, they really talked that thing up. And I thought, yeah, because I couldn't fathom the idea of not having any type of a physical key to type on, okay? I was at that point. And, and so that was like, okay, that gives me the best of both worlds. If you don't know, the BlackBerry Storm had a screen that, okay, you had that phone, you'll know, Laura. You had to press down on the screen if you wanted to type a letter. Not only did you have to touch the letter, but you also had to press the screen down. And it took a little bit of effort to press that screen down, and it wound up making it so much harder to type than if I didn't mean to hit that button. So that was probably my biggest complaint with that phone, was having to push that screen down like that to get the keystroke, if you will, to register. But on top of that, it was BlackBerry's OS, and there's, that's a pretty, pretty much business on that phone. There's not a whole lot of stuff there, to put on it. And so that was the other thing. But so I moved on from there. I've never done Apple, but I moved on from there, and I got Android, and I couldn't tell you what order I got what. I think I just got the Droid. The Android, I think it was called a Droid. I think HTC maybe have made it. I'm not sure. But anyway, I bought that one. I bought HTC made a Thunderstorm. They made a Resound, and the Resound was the only phone that I'll stand behind that was a good choice. And there were like a couple of others. And anyway, I mean, I spent big bucks to be able to have this phone when it came out. And so it came out, and almost every single time when I bought those brand new phones, they were riddled with problems for the first bit of, for the first while. In fact, most of the time you would go a year while they were working the bugs out of the phone before everything would work okay. And so I was actually paying top dollar to be a beta tester. And, I thought I was smart. And I look at it now and I think about it and I'm like, was I really that smart? What did I benefit from that? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. You know? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not an ego-based kind of person. I don't care what what other people think of what I have or anything like that. I bought it because I wanted it. I don't buy things on because other people have them. But I learned a big lesson with that about going out and paying top dollar for the latest, greatest, and all of that, because you're not necessarily getting the best deal in the world. So lately, there's been a lot of crap that's been advertised, and I'm concerned. There's a lot of good stuff, don't get me wrong. A lot of good stuff. But let me give you an example. And I'm not going to name a channel because people get all upset about that. Oh my goodness, I'm a bully now too. I'm a bully. Let me tell you something. In high school, there was probably only one other kid that was picked on more than me. But I'm a bully. Don't tell nobody though. Anybody that grew up with me would die laughing to hear that. Anyway, back to the subject. This channel was advertising some power boxes, solar generators, whatever name we're gonna put on them. I've finally been whipped and beaten down just to say solar generator, just so everybody knows what the hell I'm talking about. But anyway, he had two of them there, and I'm not going to name the channel or anything like that. One of them was a 300 watt Rock Pulse, the new style, and the other one was one of the Oops. I don't know what size it was. And here's my thing. If you don't understand the technology that you're out there pimping, maybe you shouldn't just go out there and A, just openly pimp it, and B, tell people what's good and bad if you have no idea. And that's where my problem lies. There's a lot. Hey, I don't sit there. There's channels that their strong suit is gardening, is doing stuff like that. Hey, I can't tell them a damn thing. Absolutely not. Why? Because that's not one of the hats that I've really worn in my life. I can only with confidence speak about the hats that I've worn. And when it comes to energy production, when it comes to electronic circuitry, when it comes to things like that, batteries. In fact, I put a video up just I went out and was doing some maintenance and repairs on my electric bike, right? 48 volt battery pack on the back of that. 117 18650 batteries in there that I put all together. A 13S 9P configuration, because I clearly don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And pardon the language, it gets frustrating. And BMS system, all that, it's all done up right. And I built that battery box that's on that bike because it's just one of the things I know. I don't know if I'm supposed to be apologetic, I guess, for learning this stuff. And I'm a bully if I try to help you guys with the knowledge. I'm confused. I'm really confused. I just don't want you folks either buying things you don't need, buying something that you expect more out of it than what it can provide. That's all. That's all. And when you got people playing on people's emotions because they know it's good for clicks, they know it's good for sales, that's kind of a wrong too. So I'm trying to figure out where it is that I'm this horrible monster. Because I'm lost. I'm lost. I'm no angel. I'm not perfect. But I try to differentiate right and wrong, okay? And who I'm friends with or who I'm not friends with doesn't change whether something is right or wrong. It just doesn't. So I just want to help. And what I was going to say, and I need to complete what I was saying just so people aren't misled. I mean, this is the crazy stuff. In the video, there was a really heavily slamming the Rockpals 300 watt unit. And you know, hey, for what it is, it's not a bad unit, folks. Don't let the price he gave a price on the video, and the price he said was wrong. It was much higher than what the actual cost of that particular unit is. So that was kind of, you know, but nonetheless, if that's all you need, then why should you go out and spend $1,000 for a solar generator if all you need is a little 300 watt one to be able to keep a tablet or a phone going? If you don't need to keep a fridge going, if you don't need to keep medical equipment going, if you don't have the need for all that power, a 300 watt may do you well. Why not spend $150, $200 and be good instead of $1,000? I don't know. Just makes sense to me. But the other part of that is he was ragging on the Rockpals unit like it was some piece of crap. Just simply because it was a smaller unit, because it was 300. That's one brand that I'll stand behind because I own it. And I've had it for years. I've had my Rockpals, both the solar panel and the solar generator, for years. And they're both absolute troopers. Experience. Now, I can't sit there and tell you about this, that, and the other, brand. I can comment on what I've seen other people post about them. There's a lot of people that's put up, videos on this, that, and solar generator with this, that, solar panels and all that, and they show you the wattages that they're bringing in. And when I'm sitting there looking at 200 watt panels and it's pulling in like 130 watts, 120, 130 watts, I'm kind of looking at that kind of funny going, yeah, that's not, it certainly doesn't trip my trigger. I would prefer to see more 160 to 180 watts worth out of 200 watts worth of panels. And you'll get that with rigid panels if you aim them right. But, I'm an idiot. And I'm a bully. And all that because I want you guys to know this stuff. I want you guys to understand this stuff. It's a lot of money to be investing into this equipment. And most of us just don't have it. And so I would rather somebody take their time, slow down, don't get all emotionally upset because the world's going to end tomorrow. Because you heard it on YouTube. Just slow down and make wise choices. Oh, thank you, Laura. Well, it just, it is what it is, I just want to help. And I'm not here to profit from it. I can't even get paid from YouTube from it. Because they say I'm monetized, but I still haven't gotten a red cent. Whatever. I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. But if I can help you guys understand needs, especially when it comes to solar and electrical and stuff like that, let me help you. Please. I know a thing or two. It's amazing that in my 50 years on this planet that I've actually researched something. pretty incredible. Actually, it's been a passion ever since I was a little bitty kid. Literally 5 years old. Electricity has been a passion. So it is what it is. But anyway, I probably missed 90% of what I really wanted to say. What am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to think? I don't want you guys dealing with this stuff and emotionally. With everything that's going on in the world. Because it can cause somebody to make a lot of bad decisions. Especially if they're scared. And I'm worried to death that people are going to put themselves in really bad positions because they're afraid that something is so imminent that may or may not be, that they wind up putting themselves in such a bad spot, and all because they got worked up. Yeah, we need to be concerned with things. There's no doubt. There is plenty on our plate to be concerned with. But we don't have to drama it up. We can just put the facts out there as they are. We don't have to drama it up. Not about different styles. It's not about nothing about that. If you want to help people succeed at dealing with strife, help them stay calm. Not help them get worked up. Now, I don't have to come on here and act like a child and do a 46-minute video why don't we grow up and deal like this with like adults? All of it. All of it. Hell, I've offered multiple times. I'll offer again. Let's have a live sit down on YouTube. A live sit down. But gotta include the people that are whispering in your ear. They have to be a part of it. They have to be a part of it. Because there is a reason they're whispering in your ear that you probably don't know.